Hello my dear friends, Assalamu alaikum and welcome back. Friends, as you know that we are discussing about the tissues of the human body, right? So in the previous 9 or 10 lectures we have recorded about the epithelial tissue. So let us start our lecture. Friends, you know I have started discussing about tissues, and you know there are 4 classes or groups of tissues in our body. The first one is the epithelial, right? Epithelial, then connective tissue, then muscular tissue, and then nervous tissue, right? So we have already introduced all of them. In the first lecture regarding the tissues, I had done just the introduction of the tissues, what are tissues and what is the important thing about these tissues. Then we started to discuss about the epithelial tissue. So in the epithelial tissue we have recorded about 11 lectures, and we have said that what are epithelial tissues, what are their classification, what are their locations in the body, and which forms are they present, and what are their structures, right? What are the structure in the basal side, what is the structure in the lateral sides, what are the structures in the apical side. And then we discussed about the functions of epithelial tissue, which we discussed about 17 functions of the epithelial tissues we have already discussed. Now I am going to start inshallah discussion about the connective tissue, that what is connective tissue and what is its composition. So connective tissue, about connective tissue, it's not a very small tissue in our body, right? We can say that in our body, all over our body there is connective tissue. All over our body there is connective tissue, right? Everywhere where there is epithelial tissue there must be connective tissue. Everywhere there is muscular and nervous tissue there must be connective tissue. So connective tissue is present all over the body, and connective tissue is the most abundant tissue of the body, right? I will do the definition, don't worry, I will define the connective tissue, but it's a very small introduction for our previous lectures, right? So let us start discussion about the connective tissues, that what is a connective tissue. Connective tissue, friends, as I told you that wherever in your body there are those 3 tissues, there must be the presence of connective tissue. So it means that if anywhere there is epithelia, right, in your body, anywhere there is epithelial tissue, right, there must be connective tissue related to this epithelial tissue. For example, if you look at your skin, right, your skin is made up of 2 layers, and these 2 layers are the epidermis and dermis, and this dermis layer of the skin is actually connective tissue, right? Then we say that wherever there is nervous tissue there must be connective tissue, and wherever there is muscular tissue, there is a muscle, there must be some connective tissues present around this muscle, inside this muscle, and other things. So we say connective tissue is the tissue which support other tissues, right, which provide support to other tissues. So let me write the definition here: a tissue which provide, right, structural and functional support to other tissues of the body, to other tissues of body. Now let us clear this definition. How? Look carefully. A tissue which provides structural and functional support. This tissue provides structural and functional support to other tissues. Other tissues means epithelial tissue, muscular tissue, and connective tissue. So it means, as I told you before, that anywhere there is other tissues of the body, there must be connective tissue present there. Look carefully. You know about epithelial tissue, we say that this epithelial tissue is avascular tissue. What is this? It is a avascular tissue. It means there is no blood supply, there is no blood vessels inside this epithelial tissue. So how do they get energy? From where do they get energy? From where do they get glucose and oxygen? And where their metabolites are going, where their extra substances are going, right? So we say below the epithelial tissue there is connective tissue, and from this connective tissue what happens, you know, inside this connective tissue there are blood vessels, right, arteries and veins, and from these arteries and veins there are capillaries inside this tissue, and from these capillaries diffusion of substances occur to this epithelial tissue. Now look carefully, if this epithelial tissue is alive and it is functioning and it is working and its structure is well organized, it is because of whom? It is because of this connective tissue. If you remove, look carefully, from this area, from certain area of this tissue, I have removed this connective tissue from this area. Now after some time you will see that this layer or this part of this epithelial tissue will die, right? It will be died. Why? Because blood supply, nerve supply, blood drainage, everything to this piece of this tissue is stopped. There is no blood supply, right? There is no nutrition, there is no oxygen, there is no drainage of carbon dioxide and other substances. So what did we say? We say that this tissue below this epithelial tissue, this piece of the tissue is connective tissue, and this tissue is supporting this epithelial tissue. This connective tissue piece is supporting this epithelial tissue. It is providing structural and functional support. This tissue is working, its function is proper because of whom? Because of this connective tissue. Its structure is normal, right? Because of whom? Because of this connective tissue. Right, friends? So everywhere in your body where there is epithelial tissue, where there is nervous tissue, where there is muscular tissue, there must be connective tissue present in that area, right? So we say connective tissue is not a tissue which connect different substances. No, we say connective tissue is a tissue which provides structural and functional support to other tissues of the body, right? So in our whole body, we have connective tissue everywhere in our body, right, friends? Good. Now next important thing is that what is its structure? Look, first of all we should clear our mind that what is the composition of the connective tissue, right? So here I'm writing about composition, and we are just introducing this tissue, right? Its composition. So everywhere where there is connective tissue, that connective tissue is composed of three important things, right? And what are those things? The first important thing that a connective tissue has, if it's a tissue, it must have cells, right? So there are cells present in connective tissue, and in the next coming lecture I will discuss about the cells of the connective tissue. I will discuss every cell in detail, inshallah, right? So we just want to know about the composition. Then the second important factor or important structure which is present in the connective tissue, that is the ground substance, or we say extracellular matrix, right? We say extra means outside, cellular means cell, extracellular matrix, and this extracellular matrix is also known as ground substance, right? And right here in this lecture we are going to discuss about this ground substance, right? And the third important factor that is present in a connective tissue, that is the fibers of the connective tissue. So I will discuss also about the fibers of connective tissue. So there are three types of fibers present: the collagen fibers, the elastic fibers, and the reticular fibers are present in the connective tissue. So if you take, look carefully, if you take a piece of, you just consider that it's a connective tissue, right? And we have taken this small piece of this tissue and we have done an enlargement to it. We have enlarged this piece of the connective tissue. So we will see that is that very small area which we have enlarged. So first of all we will see cells which are present in the connective tissue, and I will show you how many types of cells are present in a connective tissue. We will see. So these are, for example, the cells, and they are talking and making gupshup with each other. So these are the cells, different type of cells. Why? Because in a connective tissue there may be different types of cells present, right? So these are the cells, and these cells are present in extracellular matrix, or we call it ground substance. So here must be the ground substance present. So look carefully, I am making three types of ground substance in this connective tissue. Look, the red color one, ground substance, then the green colored ground substance, right? Every connective tissue has this green color ground substance, and then there is the blue colored ground substance, right? So the ground substance is made up of how many components? You can see on the whiteboard, 3 components, right? I will write it there and I will discuss about the ground substance. The next important thing that is present in the connective tissue, that is the fibers. So you will see different type of fibers. And what are those fibers? There may be some thick fibers which are present in the connective tissue. So these kind of fibers, the thick fibers, are found in the connective tissue, which are very hard fibers, and they provide structural integrity to the tissue. So these fibers. Then there are other type of fibers which are very thin fibers, right? So these are the fibers, other type of fibers present in the connective tissue. And then there are the third type of fibers present in the connective tissue, and these may be the fibers which are very thin but they have small branches, right? I will discuss about all these fibers, don't worry. So this is a piece of connective tissue, and this piece which we have enlarged here, this small piece is composed of how many components? 3 components. The first component, right, so cells are there, and we will see the cells, how many types of cells are there, and different types of connective tissues have different types of cells, right? So majorly there are 2 types of the cells that I will discuss later, the permanent residents and the transient cells I will discuss. Then there is extracellular matrix, and then there are fibers. So how many types of fibers? 3 types of fibers are found, which you saw in this diagram. So this is a very small piece of connective tissue which we have enlarged, and we have shown a very simplest composition of this connective tissue. Now my dear friends, let us discuss about this extracellular matrix, or we call it ground substance. That what is this ground substance composed of, right? So this lecture was just about the introduction of connective tissue, the definition of it, right? Then about its composition, and now let us discuss about the extracellular matrix. Right, look carefully friends, this is a piece of connective tissue, right? And we saw here that, for example, this is a cell and this is a cell, right? And only these 2 cells are present in this connective tissue, right? Outside this cell there is a special type of matrix. This is called extracellular matrix, or we call it ground substance, right? So let us discuss about ground substance of connective tissue. Ground substance, right? The ground substance, or is also known as extracellular matrix, ECM, extracellular matrix. This extracellular matrix is composed of 3 important components, right? The first important component is are called the GAGs, and the GAG stands for glucose, amine, glycans. Actually these are the sugars which are present there. So GAGs are present there. Then we know there is the second component, and that second component is called the proteoglycans. Proteo means proteins and glycans means carbohydrates. So the ground substance is composed of GAGs, glycosamine glycans, proteoglycans, and the third component is glycoproteins. And let us see a little bit detail of all of these three components of the ground substance of the connective tissue.